Good evening, mentorship team. Coach Cliff, we are live to go over your weekly questions, talk about your training. How are things going out there? I'm psyched for a lot of different reasons. One of them being I'm sporting our new kit for next year, the 2019 kit, and I think it looks pretty slick. A little darker, a little more edgy, and super comfortable. So this is our Wadi Inc. kit. I have the two-piece, and I think it's pretty good. So curious to hear how you guys like it when you get it, and pretty pumped about it. So tonight's topic, we're going to be talking about the top 5 swim mistakes and the corrections for them. And that's not all. There's definitely a lot more than 5, but I chose the top 5 and the drills to go over them. I'm also going to be sending you guys the swim videos, our TriStar swim videos database and library. We have lots of them there. And then I chose a select few for you guys to work on. So with the mentorship team, guys, you can text in, ask me questions. Anything's pretty much fair game here. And, you know, I know a lot of folks have races that are actually coming up right now, which is pretty darn exciting. We have athletes racing Ironman Cozumel this weekend. We have Ironman Arizona this weekend. I'll be out at Arizona cheering everybody on out in cyberspace and giving you guys some updates from the course. So pretty awesome stuff for us to be going over. So go ahead and start to write in some of your questions for me if we have anything to kick things off. Yes, Durst, I'm feeling very aero tonight. Yes, if I had my aero bars, I'd be tucking because I'm feeling pretty aero right now. So without further ado, let's jump right into these swim drills so that you guys can take a look and see what I'm talking about. So the number one error that I see in swimming that we can correct pretty readily is not having high enough elbows. So when your arm is coming around, you want to make sure you get it nice and high, jacked up. When you see a really good swimmer, right, they have their arm really high and their forearm is generally perpendicular to the bottom of the pool. So in this swim video here, you can see that this athlete has actually got their elbow pretty low. And really what we're trying to do is get it to be much more perpendicular to the bottom of the pool there. So we're looking for an angle that's much more vertical up into the upper part of the swim stroke. So that will allow you guys to get your entry point much better into the water. And you can notice that when he puts his arm into the water, his elbow is actually going to be a bit below the surface of the water, and that means that entry point is not very good. So that entry point is actually going to be a point where he's going to be pressing on the catch, where he's going to be essentially putting pressure down. See how his elbow is beneath the surface of the water here, guys? And that means that his first motion when he goes to push in the water is going to be down. Let me grab a different tool so you can see a little bit better. And we'll choose this tool. So yeah, he's going to be putting positive pressure down only because he didn't get that elbow high enough up, so he had a deeper arm entry angle into the pool. So one of the drills that you can do to help correct that is, one, just think about lifting your arms much higher, but you really are going to be doing a drill like the thumb scrape drill where you're pushing out the back of the end of the pool and lifting your arm up and recovering, doing a thumb scrape drill on the rib cage. And again, guys, all of these will be posted on our TriStar Swims drills, that is. So you can check them out there. All right, so next up, let's pull up the next error is crossing over. This one, I'm going to choose a different angle here. Might be a little bit easier for us to see a little bit here. And as you can see, as the arm comes in, we got a little bit of crossing over. Not too bad on the right arm, but the left arm, you can see it coming right across the front and the center of his body there. And so that's going to really put a lot of positive pressure on the front arm and slow you down. It makes it hard to power transfer against a very straight arm. So you want to keep that arm nice and straight, and you want to keep both arms straight as if they're off into infinity like railroad tracks. So really important to keep that. A good drill to do for that, guys, is going to be the arm recovery drill. I've got a whole bunch of different drills on this one in particular, but yeah, when you take the arm and on the recovery, scrape the side of your rib cage, as I was mentioning before. That really tucks the arms in tight like this, so that your arms can only just go straight into the water and access the water like this. So if you're head down in the water, you're probably not even going to be able to see your arm when it's crossing over like this, but you got to make sure that your arms remain in their left and right quadrant. If you're swimming over the center line in the pool, that's really helpful as a reference point. And therefore, what happens is when the arm goes straight into the water, let's say it's your right arm, your head just goes right under your shoulder and follows it, creating a nice, straight, powerful position with your ear and your shoulder attached and fixed. And that way you're creating a very small column of moving water that the whole rest of your body can go right behind. If your arm goes in all noodly like this or at an angle, it's not very good to power transfer against. So imagine if you had a rocket ship where the top of the rocket ship was like this. It'd take off and go like that. So we want to power transfer things nice and straight. I'm going to take one quick second here and text you guys and make sure that, yeah, there we go. All the comments just pop up sometimes when I just type in like this. So let's see. Go through some stuff. Shannon says she needs some pink in the kit for next time. We'll probably have an all-ladies kit in the future. Thanks for that thought, Shannon. By the way, we're doing a little timeout here from our swim video chat. And Durst says, let's see, he's going to go hop on a trainer and do the chat while he's cycling. No problem. Cool. Thanks for letting us know. Yuki, what's happening? Did you get your kit? What's going on? Marshall, welcome to the call. Okay, so we're rolling along here with the swim topic of discussion for the evening, and let's keep going on with that in particular. So the next kind of big one that I see is not rolling enough to breathe, guys, and that means you're really swimming relatively flat. So what you'll see is when this athlete comes to take a breathe, the hip is still pretty much closed in the water. And so what you're seeing here, the hip's generally flat. And ideally what we want to see is a much better open hip that comes up, almost as if I were attaching a string to the side of your hip. You would roll up and open up your hip. And the way the swim roll works, it actually starts from your feet, it goes to your hip, and then your shoulders come around and stack up on their side, and then all of you comes around, and eventually you're able to breathe underneath your arm. So the head is the very last piece that comes around, guys. So it's feet, hips, shoulders. So error number 2 is swimming flat in the water. Great drill for this one, kick on side drill. Really awesome drill. You can do it with flippers or without, but that is a good one. And we go into our swim drills. I've got kick on side in here for you guys to check out. Shark fin drill is a good one. Pull that up for you to see. And here's the video that goes with it, so you guys will be able to follow all that. And I posted it on the Facebook group page, so you can go and find all these drills. Don't be scrambling or worry that you're not going to be able to get them. And let's go back to the main swim drills and go back to our view. Okay, questions so far? Anything coming through on the feed? Any questions from you guys? Durst says, hey Cliff, how does temperature affect heart rate? Have been having issue with heart rate in the 10-degree Utah temps, but inside on the treadmill consistent. Okay, Durst, so heart rate is a very fickle beast. It goes lower typically when you're more fit. It tends to go higher when you're pushing it, and it tends to be higher when you're sick, and it tends to be all over the map. So it's very hard to pinpoint things. Temperature, usually it's higher, obviously, when it's hotter, but when it's colder, it's generally should be lower. So in terms of how you're dealing with and coping with these types of things, it's less of an issue unless you're extending the duration of your training that you're doing. So if you're doing like a really long bike outside in the cold, or a really long run in the cold, then you'd be a little more concerned, obviously, about watching how the heart rate is progressing. But other than that, man, I think you don't really have to have quite so much concern about what your heart rate actually is doing at this particular juncture, and more worried about output that you're seeing. So I hope that answers the question. You can shoot me a follow-up one there if I didn't answer that one correctly. Oh, I'll take a pause here and let you guys know that at any point you want to give a thumbs up or a like, I work for those likes. Ah, there they are. Boom. Coming through. Thank you for the likes and the thumbs up, guys. Appreciate that one. So coming back around with our swim video here. And we just talked about crossing over. We talked about low elbows being two of the biggies. And let's go to a fourth one. So dropping the lead arm. And this is one that I don't think I have a really great video here to show you quite as much here, but I'm going to try my best doing it in a bit in slow motion here. And hopefully you can see this maybe if I go to a third view here. And that's not too shabby. So notice he's got the lead arm still extended out, which is good. And then it starts to drop that lead arm about timed in the right spot. And let's see if I can pull it up and show you a little another view here. So now he's extending the lead arm out in front, which is fine. Now there's a good shot. Notice that the trailing arm, the recovering arm, is still, it's low. And not only is it low, but it's also premature that he's dropping away this lead arm. Where it should be right now is nice and high in the water here, high in the water line. So we don't want to see that arm falling down because this is not a very efficient position right now that he is in the water. So that is really kind of a no-no there. We want to make sure that you hold that weight on that lead arm right there. He's leaving it out. Leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it, leave it. And now he takes a stroke. So he's doing a pretty good job on that right side, but not as good on the left side. So again, I'm going to get a little higher elbow here. Dropping the lead arm, dropping it a little too premature. So hope you guys are able to see all that and make sense of it pretty good. Okay, let's pull back over here, see what questions we have coming through. Questions. And my next question's coming up. All right. Shannon says, I need help with bilateral breathing. I only breathe on the left right now. Yeah, it's good to breathe on both sides. It's really great because if somebody's just splashing water on your face during a swim, during a race, that's not good. We need to get you breathing on both sides. Make sure that you can operate on both sides. So it's kind of like learning to dribble a basketball with the opposite hand. You just got to force yourself to do it. And in the beginning, it may feel like you're sinking. You may need to use flippers. You may need to use a pull buoy a little bit to just practice it. Nothing wrong with that, but it's just actually creating that muscle memory to be comfortable to breathe on the side like that, for instance. So yeah, Shannon, definitely want you doing that and practicing that aspect. All right, so let's get a look and a fix on the last and the fifth one that I see that is most common. And actually, I'm going to pull up a different video since in that one he's got a pull buoy, which is not going to help us see the view that we wanted to see. All right. And this is going to show you, right, the last piece. So if you're driving down the highway, guys, the last thing you would do is put your arm out the window. Why? Because that water or that air during your drive down the highway is going to really rip your arm off. And notice this leg right here is kicking way out to the side, way out there. And that water out there is slow moving water, super slow in fact. So this leg is just kicking right out, and all this water out on the side here, guys, is super, super slow. And he's creating this nice fast channel of water that we want to continue to access. And so we want that body line to stay right here. And we want it to be kicking in this nice 6-inch box right there. We don't want it to be introduced that leg out to the side. So that's a real common error that I see pretty regularly in swimming, and it's one that's completely correctable. So that is good to spend some time on, guys, and you can do a couple different things to make this happen. Use flippers. The red zoomer fins are awesome for this type of thing. And you can kick within a small 6-inch box. So I'm calling it a 6-inch box because I know that you're going to kick in a whole 1-foot box. So let's keep it small, keep it compact, and that way you're kicking within your body line and you're not introducing drag every time the leg kicks outside of the body. The kick is really just to lift the back end up in swimming. It's not propulsive. The best swimmers in the business might get 30% propulsion, which actually is quite significant. Most age groupers and novice swimmers have a negative drag when they kick. So we want to keep those feet really tight behind us, just lift the back end up so we're not sinking in the water And when we're more horizontal in the water, then it's easier to transition through the water and pass through the water. So really important point, and something for all of you guys to work on for that kick. Like I said, overload kick with the zoomer fins and a kickboard is great. One of my favorite sets is where you kick 25 yards with the flippers, and then you get rid of the kickboard and you swim 25 yards with the flippers, and then you pull the flippers off and you swim another 25 yards, just normal freestyle, before going back and repeating the same thing over again. And the benefit of doing that is that you actually pull the toys away as you're going through. You've overloaded the feet early on in the beginning, and then it imprints where those feet should be. So the benefit of the zoomers is they're also keeping the feet restricted from doing a big splayed kick and keeping the feet centered where they need to be. So a good thing to practice for you guys and your drilling, and to be happy with your drills. So let's check back and see what kind of questions we have coming through, because I'm doing a whole lot of talking, and I want to make sure that I'm answering questions that you guys have throughout your week. Okay, so Durst says, should we breathe on both sides every stroke or every other stroke on the same side? Boy, these are great questions, and here's what the answer is. You breathe when you need to breathe. If you're swinging long course and you tend to be 70.3 or greater, and you're going to think about adopting perhaps a 2-1-2. So that means that you breathe once, breathe twice on the same side, and then you're down for a count, one count, and then you breathe once, breathe twice on that side. So what that allows you to do is get a quick hit on one side, you're down for a count where you're holding your breath, and then a quick hit on the other side. So it's a 2-1-2 pattern is a good one. Or you can breathe every single stroke. If you're doing a sprint, you're going to have to really crank up that breathing to make sure you're breathing enough. So Marshall, looks like you had the same question there. Better to breathe every other stroke, or what are you doing? It really just depends on how hard you're going, how much oxygen you need, and if you really are not getting enough oxygen, right, your form's going to fall apart. You're not going to go any faster. So I say breathe as much as you need to, hold best form. Always, 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 always hold best form. And usually it's a function of people suffocating in the water before they ever achieve even threshold, for instance, because they just can't hold that great form. So good questions there. Shannon says, should you kick from your hips or your knees? Definitely don't want to kick from your knees. So the kick in swimming is from the hip. It's more like a Flipper, the dolphin. It's just a whip like this, a short little whip, and there's a flex in the knee, but really it's a short throw. And you push from the hip a little bit, and it's a ripple, like a snap like this. And you want to use the top and the bottom of your foot to massage the water to lift the back end up and keep you in place in the water. So great question there, Shannon. And so definitely don't be bending. Short little snappy kick, and don't think that you want to activate the quads or the hamstrings. There should be no activation of it all. It's a very stubby, snappy little staccato like this. Very kind of almost just snappy. A lot of times you see a kick will be big plop kick, plop kick, plop kick. Your hamstrings, your quads, guys, are just demanding of oxygen. Demanding, and that's what gets you this having a hard time breathing in the water type thing. So you get into this oxygen debt, and then it's really hard to recover from that. And pile on that, if you're in a race scenario, forget about it. It's really hard to recoup that oxygen at that point. All right, so let's pause there for a second. And I have to text in another smiley face so you guys can see that, and I can see the questions that are coming through. Yeah, do you kick from the glutes? Yeah, you could use a little bit of your glutes if you want while you're kicking, but really it's kind of just a whip-like motion from the hip. It's almost just like a stiffening of the leg, really. And there's basically a 2-beat kick, a 4-beat kick, or a 6-beat kick. If you're a 2-beat kick, it means that for every one pull, you have one kick. It means that if you have a 4-beat kick, for every pull, you have 2 kicks. So pull on the left, kick twice on the right. If you have a 6-beat kick, which is more rare, you have 1 pull and you have 3 kicks on the opposite side. 3 kicks is 1, 2, 3, before you take your next stroke. And so that looks ferocious in the water. It just looks like an absolute hummingbird in the water with that type of a kick. Most people have a 4-beat kick, And a 2-beat kick is relatively common for those who need to conserve some energy, or for more, I think, long course athletes that are trying to just save their legs and their breathing. So good questions coming through on the swim tonight, guys. Any other questions coming through at this point? I also have everybody's Training Peaks loaded up here, and thought that we could also cover some of that for some questions that you guys have. I want to give a big shout out. We've got some mentorship athletes racing Ironman this weekend, including Alana Gray, who's doing Cozumel. And we also have Jess Zass, who's also going to be pulling up and doing Ironman Arizona. I was able to chat with those guys, all of the Ironman Arizona TriStars, last night, and they had great questions, and they were obviously a little bit nervous and anxious to get started out there, but looks like the conditions are going to be exceptional, so looking forward to seeing them do well. And let's see, any other questions coming through from our athletes this evening? I think we have a good mix of folks out there. Yuki, what's going on with you? I know you're on the call. You're quiet over there. I'll single you out. I know you've got a bit of a race this weekend. It looks like it's kind of a for funsy one here. Wasn't familiar with it, but the terrain race, I think that's a mountain bike race, but I could be wrong. And Steve Scarpati also has the Mohunk Mountain Challenge there. I think he's got something going on there. It's not an A race. It just looks like one he popped into the calendar there. So that's it, guys. That's all I have from my end. We covered some great swim stuff this evening. And if you have any more questions on swim or your swim stroke, we can go over this topic. I think it's one that's low-hanging fruit for you guys in your swim. You can easily find multiple minutes out there, and it's free speed. When you work on the drills and you do what we need to get done in the pool, it's amazing how much free time you can get, and you don't have to do any more training, okay? So that's my call, mentorship team. Last chance for any other questions. Last chance. Going once. Questions. Okay, here we go. There we go. Shannon says, how important is, looks like, learning to flip turn in the pool? It's, I think it's important at some point as you start to advance in your swim career. If you're doing a lot of swimming in the pool, flip turns become more efficient. They become a way for you to learn to pace and hold breath. So it's a good thing to practice and learn how to do. Is it required? Absolutely not. But I think it is a nice thing to be able to do. Steve says, any good drills for preventing the arm drop? Yeah, there's a whole bunch of them, and I'm gonna punch them in here. Let's see if I can do arm drills. They are going to be actually in all those drills that I sent you. There's a series of them. I'll type them in afterwards because for some reason they're not popping up here as I'm trying to send them to you. But Steve, yeah, I will put those in there for you. So, mentorship team, thanks very much for being here this evening. Good call with you guys. Great to go over everything with you. And try it during the week if you can to just drop a note into the mentorship Facebook page so I can see if there's any specific questions and or topics you'd like for me to cover. Otherwise, I will be left to my own devices to just tell you what's up, which is cool too. No problems. So I want you guys also to have a wonderful Thanksgiving week next week. We're actually going to be off the radar for that Wednesday. I want you guys to go out and do some extra training, and I will throw my notes here right now on how to entertain Thanksgiving. So for those of you who really like to indulge and have a great Thanksgiving, my suggestion is to wake up a little bit early, get in about 60 to 90 minutes of training, real low intensity, and get that burn going, and then run it right up to the start of when you're going to eat Thanksgiving, and then just go for it. Eat whatever you'd like for about 2 to 3 hours, enjoy yourself until you're absolutely full, and then recover and rest for a couple hours, take a nap, enjoy it, and before you go to bed, just have a light something, if anything. And I gotta tell you, that is something that for myself for many years I've enjoyed doing because I really like Thanksgiving. And that sequence actually has had me lose weight a few times in a day that's actually pretty darn gluttonous. So that's the 411. I'm doing some Thanksgiving work out there. But anyway, I digress. Have a wonderful week next week, since we won't be together. The following week, we will be back live for the mentorship calls. And make sure you guys cheer really loudly online for our team out in Arizona and in Mexico, and all other athletes who are racing out there, TriStars Worldwide. Okay, guys, I really appreciate you being here and being a part of the program. I'll see you soon and see you next week.